You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Right, I welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how we doing tonight?
No, doing good, man. It's Friday night. Get to hang out with you. Enjoying maybe the last weekend we're going to see here for a while in Colorado. So, supposed to be pretty nice. So I'm excited about that. But I'm really excited for the college slate on Saturday. But I have to be because the NFL slate not so good, guys. And we'll go through the breakdowns. We're going to do our best. Obviously, fantasy's here, so it's all relevant. But man, some of these matchups and the quarterback matchups, I'm sure everybody's seen the memes and the commentary and stuff out there. It is brutal, absolutely brutal. And if you're playing main slate DFS, God bless you, because all the good matchups are on prime time or isolated slots, if you will, here on Sunday and Monday. So the main slate on DFS is wretched this week for quarterback.
Yeah, it's tough. It's also tough when you've got Desmond Ridder as, when you've got a QB room of Desmond Ridder and Deshaun Watson, and quite frankly, you've been having to try and ride out that.
Watson's playing.
It's true.
Watson will start. They did say that.
That's true. You know, the last time that I started him in the home league, he got me negative 0.75 points.
And you won.
I did. I somehow won. But do you know how hard it is in our league to have a player actually get negative points?
Right.
Next to impossible. Like, we just haven't quite perfected everybody gets points for drinking Gatorade on the sideline and bonus points for what color of Gatorade to drink. And like, if we could figure that one out and put that in the scoring, I'm sure we would, because it is a crazy scoring type of format there. But alas, that's we have not quite figured that one out yet. But.
So you're right. I'm gonna open the show with my "What were you thinking?" moment of the week, and I'm in a couple different leagues with different people at work, and one of the leagues that I'm in, one of the guys in the league decided to drop Hollywood Brown.
Okay.
Just on a whim, just decided to drop Hollywood Brown. Now I'm waiting for him to clear through waivers, but I did. I mean, I've not been the biggest Hollywood Brown proponent, and I've had to eat a little bit this year because they did a good job getting the ball. But right before Kyler comes back, now's when I want Hollywood Brown the most. So we're going to see if anybody else is paying attention and if I can sneak through, because I'm middle of the pack on waiver priority this week. So
that's one of those, you waded through all of the crap of Arizona's offense and all of that to finally get Kyler back. And it looks like they keep playing that. I don't quite understand what Arizona, thinks that they really get by having the competitive advantage of not naming your starting quarterback. But anyway, right? Like, all the other teams got to prepare for both guys just in case we decide to roll them out there. Like,
but if you're Cleveland, you're preparing for Kyler, and if you get Tune, then it's like, okay.
You prepare for Kyler, and when they roll out Tune, you're like, bonus points. This is just extra credit time.
Yeah. So I screw it. I threw in the claim for him. We'll see how it shakes out. I'm hoping I get him. I have to start 3 wide receivers in this league, so it'd be nice. I'd be basically rolling out. Who would I be rolling out? A combination of CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers, and now Hollywood.
There you go.
So not bad. Like, I'd take that. So we're gonna see how it shakes for me.
Right. We'll throw it out there to anybody out there watching and listening as well. It is well established at this point that if I put one of the 7 wide receivers I have on my roster into my starting lineup for my fantasy roster in the home league, they're going to have a bad week. So we'll just throw it out there in the chat. If anybody needs this week it's going to be a little bit less because both Calvin Ridley and Brandon Ayuk are on bye. But if you need Chris Olave, Puka Nacua, Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Terry McLaurin. If you need any of them to have a bad week, just let me know, and we'll see what we can get done on putting them in my starting lineup for you. So
Do it for donations to the charity of your choice.
exactly, right? Oh, but
That's funny.
I digress. I kid you not, like, last week, perfect example. I have all of those guys to pick from, and I pick the 3 highest scoring wide receivers. All of them were on the bench. Every single one of them. And
Ridley'd been down, man. Like,
right,
now, I think I would have found a way to get McLaurin in there.
right.
Like, going up against the Eagles, but that's one, right? The others, I mean, it's just hard, right? It's an embarrassment of riches, and trying to trade in this home league at times is like pulling teeth without Novocaine. So, I mean, sometimes you're able to make it happen, but I mean, there's only been one trade in this league all season long. Like, and lucky for me, I was one of the participants. But I mean, other than that, it's been nothing.
There's been 2. The first one was
two. That's
trade
right.
with Brees Hall, and then the punting on this year for sending Justin Herbert off.
Yeah, that's right too. So not a very trade active league this year.
Nope, not at all. Well, I do see that we have a couple of questions. We want to hit them up before we start getting into news, notes, and game script and the game.
Let's get it rolling.
Can't even think of the word I'm looking for, but that those things where we talk about the games. There we go. Game slates,
betting lines.
There we go. All right, COD Reaper. This week's matchup thoughts: Prescott, Eckler, Tony Pollard, Waddle, Zay Flowers, Parham, Jahan Dotson, Bentz, Carr, Fournette, Gibbs, Ridley, Ferguson, Moody. So that's who he's got to be up against.
Man, it's a lot of Cowboys, but
right, and the Cowboys.
If I were that opponent, I'd be putting Ferguson in for Parham.
Yeah.
Everything else, I mean, it's gonna be tough, right? I mean, Eckler should have a good week. Waddle, I think, will be right in wide receiver 2 territory, right? I don't think you're going to see kind of the explosion from last week, but this is a game that I think hits the over there in Frankfurt, and obviously it's actually the first one here on our slate, so we'll cover that one here in just a minute. Pollard, it's going to be tough, right? Pollard has a tough matchup against Philadelphia. They got to get him involved in the passing game a little bit, right, to get some of those fantasy points to kind of cheat him up there a little bit, but it's going to be a battle of which quarterback can stand up against the pass rush best and try and find their playmakers the most, because AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb are both going to get theirs. So even if you think they're going to cancel out, you gotta hope Pollard's better than Swift if you're a Cowboys fan, and you gotta hope that Devonta Smith's better than Cooks and Michael Gallup. Kind of a combination of if you're an Eagles fan, and that's really kind of what's going to set the difference here in this game. So we'll get into that one too, but it's a good lineup. It's a tougher matchup for Tony Pollard. I actually like Eckler going up against the Jets. I think they'll use him a lot to help mitigate the pass rush and keep the pressure off of Justin Herbert. So I like Eckler this week. And then Zay Flowers, I mean, 5 for 65, right? I mean, that's kind of what his consistent stat line's been. 5 for 65. You hope he falls into the end zone to get you that extra 6, but that's pretty much what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, the 5 for 19 was not a helpful thing last week. That's for sure.
I still don't know how you do that. I still don't understand how you do 5 catches for only 19 yards.
I can tell you real easily how it happened. He was in my starting lineup in the home league. It's a scientific fact. If I put a wide receiver in my starting lineup for the home league, they will have a not very good week. So
there you go.
Just point of fact there again. COD Reaper saying the matchup is ranked 6, sitting 3 and 5. My team points 4. Their teams are against. Yeah. So I think you've got to you've got a tougher matchup there, but there's still a path to victory on that one.
Oh, absolutely.
141 actually sent this one over on Twitter and got that right as we were getting ready to go live. So I said, hey, pop it in the chat here and let's rock and roll this thing. So 141 over on YouTube is saying, in a PPR league, which side of the trade do you want? Thielen, Metcalf, Josh Reynolds, Tyler Algier, or Devonte Smith, Tyler Lockett, Christian Watson, Kareem Hunt? I think I want the Thielen, Metcalf, Reynolds, Algier side.
I think I'm on the Devonta Smith side only because I can play Kareem Hunt in my flex. There's an RB2 right now. Tyler Algier's been rather non-existent here lately in Atlanta. We'll see if that changes at all with Heineke, right? How the play calling changes and what some of that does. But I mean, good Lord, Adam Thielen's the best fantasy asset in this trade. Like,
yes.
I don't know. This seems just like shuffling the deck for the sake of shuffling it in a lot of ways. Now, if you need help at receiver, I think Thielen and Metcalf is the side you want just because they do have more up. I don't even know if they have more upside. Lockett's been better than Metcalf. Thielen's been better than Smith. Watson's trash. Reynolds and Watson are a wash. And Kareem Hunt's slightly better than Algier. Like,
I mean, Algier gives you a couple of weeks here and there to use, and a couple of weeks that don't kill you in like as a flex, but also give you a couple of weeks that would kill you as a flex.
yeah, but Kareem Hunt's been he's been a top 12 back here over the last 3 weeks.
It's true. I'm flipping it. I'm
Like,
flipping it.
I don't know that it's by a lot, but
It's close.
I think
for
Smith
sure.
and Lockett can. I mean, if you're combining points, I think Smith and Lockett can basically do the same thing as Adam Thielen and DK Metcalf, and Kareem Hunt slightly better than Algier. Christian Watson and Josh Reynolds, I'd drop them both.
Yeah. Yeah, that Green Bay is tough to really want any part of that offense. COD Reaper saying happy Friday to everyone. Good luck this week. And thanks, Kevin and Derek, for a great podcast. Y'all's insight gets us prepped week by week to get the dubs. Bless y'all. You're most welcome. 141. Thanks, guys, for answering the question. You are most welcome, sir. Alrighty, and then Terry asking rest of season, Barkley or the Pollard? Terry, why do you always got to come in here and ask me the tough questions on a Friday night, man? I like it. Let's get into it. Hold on.
Yep. I'm pulling up Pollard, or I'll pull up Barkley's. You pull up Pollard's.
So, rest of season, Tony Pollard has probably the better schedule down the stretch. You also do have to worry some of the fact that, how long are the Giants going to rock and roll? Now, keep in mind that, they've got that weird contract thing with Saquon where they could, based on that deal, franchise tag him again. So you've got kind of that weird little deal going on there. But I want to give the edge to Pollard rest of the season, but it's close. Like, I got Tony Pollard as probably as a top 10 back, like 9-10, and I've got Saquon as a top 12, so like that 11-12. Like, these guys are really kind of close, just back to back rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna give Pollard a slight edge, but it's not by much. And I could be persuaded to Barkley if you really believe in the fact that he's going to be catching a lot of balls, because Pollard just hasn't. But Here's Pollard's schedule, right? He does have Philadelphia this week, which is a tougher matchup, but the following weeks home against the Giants, not good against the run. At Carolina, not good against the run. Home against Washington, they just traded away half their defensive line, so that makes them more susceptible to the run. Home against Seattle, better. Bobby Wagner obviously is a beast and blocks things up pretty well. And Philadelphia again, right? So those are kind of the next 5 weeks. So 2 games against Philadelphia makes it really tough. But I think it's Pollard by a hair, but I honestly, I'm not going to fight anyone who thinks it's Barkley. Like I really am not. Like I think it's that close. So you can argue that his passing work gives him the edge because Pollard just hadn't seen it, and Pollard's not getting into the end zone right now.
Right.
So we probably need to see that change a little bit. So I think I'm talking myself into Barkley the more I ramble on here. So
there's also a component where you've got to look at the offense as a whole there, right? Like Dallas is going to put up more points than the Giants will. Like the Giants realistically struggle to get to 2 touchdowns a week as an entire offense. So whereas Dallas, you could easily see them put up 3-4 touchdowns a week.
but if he's going to see 38 touches again, like last week, like
right.
I don't give a shit how many points Dallas puts up. Like Barkley's going to be the answer, only
right.
because Dallas has mouths to feed.
Right.
So yes, they're putting those touchdowns up, but they've kind of found out that like you got to keep CD fed. And not necessarily happy, but fed, right? That just helps the offense. CD Lamb is that good of a wide receiver. So right now, it is Barkley or bust for the Giants. So
Daniel Jones coming back, and we've seen him steal some of those touches, steal some of those runs. But yeah,
Pollard because he doesn't have the injury history, but barely.
Yeah, I mean this is
sticking with it.
Like I said, they're within a hair of each other. Coin flip basically is I think where we're coming down to on this. Best defensive stream defense, week 9, Seattle at Baltimore. That's going to be a tough one for you. Giants at Las Vegas, potential there. Green Bay at the Rams, potential there. Atlanta versus Minnesota.
I'm going Atlanta.
Yeah.
At home. Atlanta plays really well at home.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, obviously, going to the new quarterback. They don't
Starting
run the
the
ball
rookie.
particularly well to begin with. Dobbs is going to be active, so maybe you see Dobbs step in and try and do something if it's gets ugly quickly. But I really think I think Atlanta's the play here. I think that being at home against a first-time starting rookie quarterback, like all those little things, and what I think will be a low-scoring matchup. I think the Dirty South is where you're going on this one.
Yeah, I like that Atlanta call there as well. The only other one I would really look at in that list would be Green Bay versus the Rams, right? Like Matthew Stafford looks like he very well might miss. Puka Nacua has been dealing with the knee injury there. So if you've got Brett Rippon throwing the ball, like that's a recipe for not much there. And then Green Bay's been really stout against the run there as well. So you don't have Stafford to throw the ball around. And Green Bay's been good against the run. So that would be the other way I'd look, but it is Atlanta is my favorite there as well. Any other thoughts on this one?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
All righty. Any thoughts out there, news and notes before we start getting into the slate?
John Watson's going to start. Matt Stafford's a game time decision. We'll find out potentially Saturday. Realistically, probably not until Sunday if Kyler's going to start for the Cardinals, but the betting line has been moving towards Arizona. So the betting community thinks that it is going to be Kyler. We covered on Tuesday, everything from the head coach up in Vegas is gone out the door. Yeah, and I still haven't seen if Fournette's been promoted to the active roster. Like, as far as I know, he's still on the practice squad.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on that one either. So it'll be interesting to see how that one comes to play. But yeah, I can't imagine that he's going to. This isn't one of those that we've seen Buffalo really lean on the run game there. So I don't know what that's really going to look like for a Leonard Fournette there.
Goal line work. I really don't
Yeah.
think he's going to eat into what James Cook is doing at all. I think he's going to take Lat Murray out of the equation.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. So, alrighty. Well, as soon as I can get the this thing to work here, we'll start rocking and rolling here. Come on.
Maybe.
It's a trying. It's a trying. Alrighty. There we go. Week 9 kicking us off here in Germany. Miami Dolphins heading over to face the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs favored by 1.5. The over-under on this one, 50 and 50.5. What are your thoughts here?
I like the Fighting Taylor Swifts in this matchup. I think that loss to Denver last week was a little bit of an eye opener for them. So I expect them to come into Germany and handle business. They're going to treat this one like a playoff game. We're going to see them get right, be a little bit more crisp, if you will. So all that said, I still think there's points, right? Like I think we just get over that 50.5. I was thinking like 27-24, right? So that'll put us just over the top there. But I do think KC finds a way to win this game. Miami has not done particularly well against upper end competition. Struggled against Buffalo, struggled against Philadelphia. Here's another one against Kansas City. So I haven't seen Miami step up in that big game yet. And not that they can't, but Kansas City's played in a lot of these kind of big win, gotta have it for playoff seeding, precedent, rebound, whatever you will. So I like Kansas City in this one, and Andy Reid just doesn't lose back-to-back games.
That's very true. I'm also taking Kansas City on this one, right? Like their defense is playing pretty well here, and I think that they will do just fine on that one. So I think that they're going to go in there and handle business. I don't think that this is going to be as high scoring of a game as you do on this one. I think that we're going to see a little bit of a lower scoring affair here when this thing's all said and done. Talking like 27, now to call it like 24-21 type of thing. Like I think we come in just under. One of the props though that I really like in this one is Tyreek Hill to go over 90.5 receiving yards.
Right on. I like Isaiah Pacheco over 56.5 rushing. I think they're going to not pound the rock a ton, but I think they're going to do a better job of staying balanced in this game and not putting themselves into Mahomes trying to make magic happen every single play.
Fair enough. Question coming in here. What up from JAC over on YouTube? What up, broskies? Should I trade Tony Pollard for Aaron Jones and Devonte Adams?
Man,
the reason you'd be making that trade would be to get the Adams side of that, not really the Aaron Jones side.
I don't think I make this. As much as I'd love to have Devonte Adams right now, and this is a good buy low spot for him. I don't know. I don't know that's worth giving up Tony Pollard. Aaron Jones just has not been able to come back from the injury. Not that that can't change, but this Green Bay offense has been pretty anemic, whether he's been in or out of the lineup here the last 4 or 5 weeks. So until they're able to fix that, I don't know what good Aaron Jones does other than a flex play. And then Adams, if Aiden O'Connell can't get him the ball or continues to turn the ball over, he's not going to stay the starting quarterback for very long. Then you're back to the Jimmy G experiment, and Devonte Adams is clearly frustrated with him too. So I just think there's too much wrong with both of these other teams that as much as I'd like to have Adams, I think it's a little I think it's a little rich.
Yeah, I do too, right? And it's, like I said, when I started that off, the whole reason you'd be making that trade would be to get the Devonte Adams side of it. And I can understand trying to go after Devonte Adams with Jimmy Garoppolo actually being, kind of moved aside here for Aiden O'Connell, because we do have at least a 1-game sample size of Aiden O'Connell throwing the football, in a Raiders uniform here. I believe it was back in week 4 where Devonte Adams was just peppered with targets all game long. Like that was, Aiden O'Connell was, Devonte Adams was a safety blanket there. So I get that. I think we'll see a ton of Devonte Adams here, but the Aaron Jones part of that is going to be really rough to do it on, and because he's not really playable for you for fantasy. So you're trading a guy that, while he's been frustrating, he's still, he's still giving you RB2 weeks in a lot of cases. And I'm talking about Pollard, whereas Aaron Jones is giving you RB3 or RB4 type of weeks, and he's almost unplayable for you on that that point there. And JAC followed up with that. I like the idea of buying Aaron Jones and Devonte Adams and Pollard. A very favorable schedule after the Eagles. 0.75 PPR current RBs and wide receivers: Pollard, Eckler, St. Brown.
We'd be able to go Eckler, Jones, St. Brown, Adams. Ooh, I like White.
Yeah.
So that helps ease.
But at that
helps
point,
ease the loss of Pollard, because I think Rachaad White has a good back end of the season too.
Right. And Chuba
Ridley,
Hubbard's been serviceable for you as well. But I mean, the fact that you've got St. Brown, Thielen, Marquise Brown, Olave, Ridley, like if you get Ridley or Olave to catch fire here on the back end here, right? Like Olave just hasn't seen the touchdowns really come. Everything else is kind of stacking up there where we should potentially see a turnaround there. Marquise Brown with Kyler back under center, like that changes the equation quite a bit there. And Thielen, like, what you're getting out of St. Brown and Thielen, like Devonte Adams isn't going to really change that much there. In fact, all season long, you probably would have been better off. Like there might be a game here or there that I'm not thinking of, but pretty much all season you would have been better off rolling St. Brown and Thielen out there as your wide receiver 1-2. Anything I think I'm missing there?
No, Eckler. So you'd be basically rolling Eckler and White, Jones possibly as a flex, but realistically, by doing this, your flex is going to change to Thielen or Hollywood Brown or Olave. You got a lot of wide receiver talent here. Is it possible just to package 2 of these wide receivers? Like, Chuba, and would they do Chuba and Ridley? And it's a dirty deal. Like, don't get this is a dirty deal. So, but I mean, would they do Chuba and Ridley? Hell, Chuba and Olave. I'd give up that, and you do the 2-for-1. Give up Chuba and Olave and get Adams just by himself, because I think that would be a better path to your overall roster success than giving up Pollard. As much as I like Rachaad White, but this way it gives you a little bit of depth in case of an injury.
Right. Yeah. And he's just saying that
it'll get better. It'll get better.
It will. Especially with the Cowboys kind of.
They're not going to run this game, and then Pollard will start not throwing a fit, but Pollard will start making noise, kind of how CeeDee Lamb did, right when they hit a soft spot of their schedule, going up against some bad running defenses. Pollard will come back around. This week is going to be tough, but the next 3 after that, you will like. Weeks 9, 10, 11, and even 12 for Tony Pollard are all much better than
right.
Or sorry, weeks 10, 11, 12, and 13 are much better than what this week 9 is.
Correct. And JC saying all fair in fantasy football. He'll give that a shot. All right. I like it. Let us know how it goes for you. Terrence asking, start Cooper or Higgins in a flex?
Higgins.
Yeah, smash Higgins. And I get it that he's been
I don't
bad.
know about so.
Well,
You said
between
that with a
those
little
two,
bit more confidence. It's like, well, smash.
well, between the
I
two,
think
if those
Higgins
are
is the
my
better play.
options, yes, between the two, I would absolutely roll out Higgins with a lot more confidence than I would Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
Right?
I just can't. I can't trust Deshaun's shoulder, and PJ Walker can only do so much.
Right. What has Amari Cooper been with PJ Walker? Right.
Right. And going up against Arizona this week, there's a good chance that you're just going to see a shit ton of Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford, and they're just going to kind of survive and advance, right? David Njoku's seen 7 targets a game the last couple weeks, closer to the quarterback, so that kind of plays with Watson's shoulder or PJ Walker. It's just there's a clear path in Higgins getting points this week and kind of starting to reemerge himself a little bit because he's in a contract year, guys. Like, let's not forget this. Higgins is doing this to get paid, and he's had a bad start to the season. He's well aware, but he'll get it worked out. Higgins will be much closer to what you expected the back half of the season than what he was the first half.
Yeah, and that's really where I said, smash Higgins on this one, just from the standpoint of I've got far more confidence in Joe Burrow being able to stay in for an entire game, throw the ball, distribute it, all make all the throws necessary on the field than Deshaun Watson. Just at this point, like you said, I got to see it before I'm going to jump into that bandwagon there. So if those are my only two options, it's Higgins by a mile for me on that one. So, and that sounds that feels dirty to say, right? Like, just from where we're at on the season, like T Higgins is a, wide receiver 50 plus, depending upon your format, but has not been usable for you in fantasy except outside of 1 week. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into our next matchup here. And again, guys, if you have any questions, anything like that, throw them in the chat. Let's go ahead and help you guys out here, get you guys set up, ready to go for your fantasy matchups here. And let's really rock and roll this thing. Oh, and we got one more question coming in here. The Bennigan over on YouTube, he is 2 and 6, 10-person PPR. Would you trade Hall and Garrett Wilson for Waddle and Pollard? Running backs are Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Hall, White. Wide receivers are Chase, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Olave, Godwin, JSN, and Dell. I think I do it.
I don't know that I do. I don't know what you're gaining from this. Your combined point total is going to be basically identical. Right. You're just shifting where the points are coming from. A little bit more out of your wide receiver, a little bit less out of your running back. I don't mind the idea of the trade, though. Like, I don't mind the idea of the trade, but I'd be looking to get one of them, right? Like, I mean, if you could, instead of the 2 for 2, again, like 2 for 1s aren't always sexy, but I mean, if you could do something with JT, or I think that's where I'd rather lean. I'd rather get rid of Jonathan Taylor.
Right. And get Brees Hall by himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor and T. Higgins, or Jonathan Taylor and Chris Olave, or something like that. Like, I think Garrett Wilson would be a pretty clear flex play if you're able to keep him on your roster with starting Jacobs and Brees Hall every week. So I don't hate it, but I don't think it necessarily does what you want it to do. I just think it shuffles where the points are coming from.
Right. And Jonathan Taylor, super favorable schedule down the stretch. But the problem is that he and Zach Moss, like, I don't know.
Moss ain't going anywhere.
Right. Like, I don't think that this is going to be, I think the most lopsided this backfield gets is a 60-40 type of split. And I think it's going to be more of a 55-45 split is what we're going to continue to see, with Jonathan Taylor eventually getting the 55, Zach Moss having the 45 split on this thing. But Brees Hall, I see him as a top 5 running back rest of the season. Tony Pollard, top 10. Waddle gives you more upside and a much better ceiling shot than Garrett Wilson does, just from quarterback play and how the offense is designed and where they're going to be getting their points from, yada, yada, yada. But like Kevin said, all you're doing is kind of shifting points around and where it's coming from. And you're not necessarily getting as good of a floor on that one.
Yeah. Like, I'd be willing to give up Olave and Godwin for Waddle.
So Bennigan saying he's watched every Jets game this season. The offense is not getting any better. I just think that need to shift away.
If that's how you're feeling with it, by all means, go forward with it. Like I said, for your fantasy roster, specifically speaking, it just doesn't seem to do a whole bunch. You're just shifting pieces or points. If you're looking to improve your roster, I mean, you have enough wide receiver depth on your roster. Like, are you able to do Olave and Godwin, or JSN's come on late? I mean, hell, I'd do Olave and JSN for Waddle if that's what you're looking for to try and improve that, and be able to run Chase, Waddle, Wilson if you're wanting to run 3 wide receivers instead of 3 running backs. But I mean, whatever works.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right on there. All right, let's go ahead and hit up our next matchup here, and then we'll come back to the comments here in the chat here. Week 9, we got the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons favored by 4. The over/under 37.5. Thoughts on this one?
Taking Atlanta and the under on this one, and we talked about this a little bit ago, but Atlanta's at home. They get a first-time starting rookie quarterback on the road. All kind of the things that are a juicy matchup for a defense. And Atlanta typically plays better at home. I think Taylor Heineke is going to be able to do some things to help jumpstart this offense, even with Drake London being out this week. Groin or hip flexor, I don't remember which one, but Nick groin. So even with him being out this week, like I think it's going to be a big Bijan week. They're going to find ways to get the ball down the field. I think Pitts has a big week. And if you're looking for a sneaky DFS play, Van Jefferson, because Heineke and Van Jefferson were playing a lot of catch together here the last few weeks, getting Jefferson kind of acclimated with the offense. So now he's going to have to step up and kind of be one of his guys this game. And I think that's kind of a sneaky DFS play.
I could see that one. I'm going to take the Falcons as well, right? Like, I do think that they're just going to kind of salt this one away. I ultimately don't see many possessions in this game. I don't see many points put up either. So I'm also taking the under on this one. I do like the fact that you mentioned Bijan having a good game here. It's about time that we see a Bijan sighting here. But the prop that I'm taking is actually the running back on the other side of this matchup here. I think Cam Akers is going to go over 4.5 receiving yards.
There you go. I have Kyle Pitts over 3.5 receptions. If he can't get it done this week, you just need to bench him.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and hit up the chat here. Don't want to play the Cowboys defense against the Eagles, so he's looking for a streamer D. Patriots, Chargers, Vikings, Colts, Commanders. So
you could play the Chargers, and it's not going to be pretty, but I think you could get away with playing the Chargers. They actually are really good against the run. That's what the Jets want to do. But if Zach Wilson, if they're able to pick up some of those pass rushers, Zach Wilson, you might see his season high in passing yards because their defense against the pass is that bad. The Colts at Carolina is intriguing, only because I think this game script's going to be short. I think the Colts are going to run the ball a lot this game, and try and shorten that clock. And then either side of the Commanders Patriots, I'd rather have the Patriots defense over the Commanders, just because Washington traded away 2 of their pass rushers. So you're going to have a hard time getting points for sacks off a team that can't get to the quarterback.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say cosign because I don't have anything else to add to that one. I like those thoughts.
Those are not favorable matchups, man. Like honestly, honestly, with these matchups here, unless you have a big gut feeling on one, I think I roll the dice with the Cowboys defense and hope that they're able to get, 3 or 4 sacks
Turnovers.
and maybe an
Yeah.
interception. Something like that to kind of get some of those points and roll with it because these are not sexy sides of the matchup very much at all.
JAC also need to drop trade a QB. Have 3 on the rosters between Fields, Dak, and Murray. Is it a single QB league or is it super flex?
I'm assuming it's a single if he feels like he has to drop or trade one.
Right, like that's so. If it's a super flex, I'm hanging on to all 3. Moving something else out there, but
Fields, Dak, or Murray. I think it's Fields.
yeah,
I think Fields is the one I'm looking to move, and I am trying to trade him. I'm not dropping him, but I would look to try and trade Justin Fields.
right.
He's got enough hype around him still. He comes back, run. He could be top 5 still. I don't think that's going to happen. He wasn't really running nearly as much beforehand, and now with the thumb injury, he's going to be, he's going to be protecting himself here a little bit. So I think Fields is the one you're looking to try and trade. You're looking for a solid wide receiver 2 or a running back 2. I think is kind of what you're looking for in a single quarterback league.
Right, cosign. Also has 3 tight ends. Need to drop
Lord.
1. Have Laporta, Njoku, McBride. Do not drop Laporta. Like that's he's off the discussion table. Keep him on your roster. Right, he's been phenomenal, and I think he'll continue to be great for you.
Yeah, for this week, McBride's the odd man out.
Right, like I don't want the Clayton Tune experience there.
Yeah, rest of season, I'd rather have McBride than Njoku, just
Correct.
for the upside, right? We saw a bunch of targets, 12 targets, 7 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown out of him last week. Like they will push through the tight end. Kyler does use his tight end as well, so you don't have to worry about that. But this week, McBride is the odd man out. Season long, Njoku's the odd man out.
Yeah, agreed. COD asking that they've got the Jets defense and Elliott for the kicker. Any changes?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd probably roll with it. The Jets
He's been
defense
stout,
also,
man.
yeah.
They're gonna the Chargers are gonna have a hard time tossing the ball, right? Keenan Allen's gonna be pretty quiet. I think they're gonna do a good job shutting him down. Eckler's the one that you need to worry about going off, but one guy out of 17 rotational players that are going to be in and out throughout that offense should be enough for the Jets to hone in on that. And they do play well. They play good defense at home. They just do. So I think you're good with that.
Absolutely. All right, let's hit up the next matchup, and then we'll come back to the chat and the comments here. All righty, next matchup here, we've got the Arizona Cardinals heading up to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Cleveland's favored by 8. The over-under on this one is 37.5. Thoughts on this one?
I'm taking Arizona mainly because I believe Kyler Murray is going to play in this game. And as good as Cleveland's defense is, their offense can't run away and hide from anybody. So I have the under in this game. I do think it's a low scoring affair, which again makes it harder to have that 8-point spread or to cover that 8-point spread. So that's where I'm leaning for this game. Arizona to cover the 8. Still wouldn't surprise me if they lose by a touchdown, but the under. I think this is going to be a pretty low scoring affair here on Sunday.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think this is going to be a low scoring affair as well, right? I'm taking the under. I just can't see this one getting, more than about 20-10. Like, I think that's going to be a high scoring affair on this one. I think that's probably about where we're going to, end up there, is somewhere in that neighborhood of 20-10. This thing's all said and done. So I'm going to take Cleveland to cover the 8. I think that manages to get it done. I am going to take Deshaun Watson, who looks like he's going to, play football again here this season. Over 205.5 passing yards.
Okay, I'm going to take Myles Garrett over 3/4 of a sack. I think Clayton Tune's going to get put on his backside.
Fair enough. All right, Big Goo saying, what's up? Y'all had to come back. Saw y'all were on. We appreciate you tuning back in. Made the decision on Gibbs, traded him and Mims for Stevenson and Ridley. Also picked up Douglas, so we'll see what happens. LOL.
Right on.
So, yeah, should be an interesting one there, right?
Yeah,
I
I think things will be good. I think Stevenson has the opportunity for a really good week this week. Again, Washington trading away its pass rushers. They're going to have a little bit more time. There's not going to be as much pressure. So Stevenson should be a little bit better here going forward.
I like it. And Mr. COD is saying, alrighty then. Big Goose saying he also picked up McBride, have Kelsey and Laporta in a 12-person league, tried to stack it up. An embarrassment of riches at tight end is what you've got.
Raid.
So, like it.
That's nuts, man.
That is insane. Absolutely insane.
That's funny.
What's your tight ends look like, Kelsey and Laporta?
The thing is, you could have easily drafted that, right? I mean, it wasn't hard to get Kelsey and Laporta because Laporta was going so late to start the season.
Absolutely.
He's 4th-round pick next year.
Easily. Yeah, if not even higher. You might sneak up into that 3rd. All righty, let's hit up next matchup. We've got the Los Angeles Rams heading to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Green Bay's favored by 3. The over under 38.5 on this one. Thoughts on this one?
Taking the Rams because I just don't think the Packers are any good. Like, I don't know, man. This game was really tough. So Stafford's questionable, kind of a game time call. We're gonna see, but I mean, the Rams' offensive weapons are a little bit more dynamic than the Packers. The Rams are also coming off being embarrassed here a little bit, so I do expect a better defensive performance of the kind of locking down after the Cowboys put a bit of a whooping on them. So another game that I feel like is going to be under. Not a whole lot of points here in this game, so I think the Rams find a way to keep it within 3, but a push wouldn't surprise me in this one.
Yeah, that push does feel about like what it's probably going to come down to. I'm going to take Green Bay, though, at home. I really don't think we're going to see Matt Stafford in this one. So, yeah, I just can't trust the Rams to put up many points when this thing's all said and done. So I'll take the home.
17. So, I mean,
yeah, if even that, like this thing might end 13-10. Like it might be that kind of game with this thing's all said and done. 12-9, like field goal-orama type of thing. I mean, that being said, like I feel like these offenses are about on even footing there, and Green Bay's been a decent defense. So anyway, I'm going to take Green Bay. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Romeo Doubs to go under 40.5 receiving yards in this one.
I'm going to take Darrell Henderson over 45.5 rushing yards. They got to find a way to produce offense somewhere, and I don't think Brett Rippon's going to be slinging it all over the yard, so they're going to have to find a way to push that offense along, and that's got to be through the run game.
Fair enough. All righty. Let's hit up this next matchup, and we'll come back to the chat there. We got the Commanders taking on the New England Patriots. New England favored by 3. The over-under 40.5 in this one. Thoughts?
I'm taking Washington here for their offense. I think this game's going to be the over. Washington's been giving it up on defense, but it has not stopped Sam Howell from slinging it, and he's done a pretty good job distributing the ball. Right, 1 week it's Curtis Samuel, we've seen Terry McLaurin go, we've seen Brian Robinson, we've seen Logan Thomas. He's done a pretty good job distributing. Um, surprise, surprise, right? The enemy's calling plays, and all of a sudden everybody gets involved again. They're not hyper targeting any one player. But I think Washington's able to keep this well within 3. Wouldn't surprise me if they find a way to win outright against a Patriots team that's struggling. And I do expect some points in this game. So, you know, call it 20, 23, 21, something like that.
Fair enough. I do like Washington as well, right? I do think that they find a way to put up enough points to get this thing done. The Patriots have been very, very poor against the spread this whole season. So I'm going to go with Washington. I do think that we see, I'm just kind of on a theme of unders right now. So I'm going to keep riding the under on this one. As much as I think that we'll see some points put up here, it's not going to surprise me when this thing kind of peters out here at 21-18. And I do think that Logan Thomas has a decent game going over 30.5 receiving yards.
All right. Oh, sorry, I just hit my page. I'm at Demario Douglas over 3.5 receptions with Kendrick Bourne tearing his ACL. Demario Douglas, as he's kind of left as the most consistent wide receiver on this team here at the moment, and I think he's going to get some opportunities here against Washington.
I like it. All right, Nicholas asking, do you think I should trade Drake London for Kyler Murray? Also, should I trade Flowers, Swift, and JSN for JT, Olave, and Gus Edwards?
Lots of trades. Who's your current quarterback right now, Nicholas? And I think that kind of is going to answer
part one of this,
because I do think with Taylor Heineke under center, Drake London has a higher upside and a better catchable target rate from Taylor Heineke, who's more of a gunslinger. Desmond Ritter's kind of a deer in the headlights. And then as far as the other thing, Flowers, Swift, and JSN for JT, Olave, and Edwards. I
think I do the second deal. I think I want the JT, Olave, Gus Edwards side.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Oh, man, God, I hate giving up the best player, but
Flowers, I think, you're just going to get what you get, right? It's like you're not going to see him get more than 5 receptions for 50 yards. Like that's where it's going to be. And if he really gets you some fantasy points, is going to come because he also fell in the end zone, which doesn't necessarily happen, right? Because the Ravens, a lot of times when they get down there in the red zone, it's going to come from Mark Andrews or Gus Edwards has been getting a lot of carries inside that 5 zone, 10 zone and finding a way to power that through. Swift, yes, really like that one, but Swift has a touchdown vulturing problem as well. JSN, really, we've really only seen him get the work when it comes down to Lockett's missing, when Metcalf's missing. So a lot of it gives you some upside on that one, and we've seen a couple of flashes throughout the season here. JT gets you something, and Gus has been giving you something pretty good there. So I kind of like the running back needy type of position, where most teams are running back needy. I kind of like getting the 2 running backs, both of which can be an RB2 or flex option depending upon the week for you.
Yeah, I'm not in love with it, but if you want to do it, go for it. I mean, I don't think it's going to drastically hurt you. I think it's, again, you're shifting points around, right? You're taking some of the Flowers and Edwards are almost a wash, right? They can boom, but realistically, you're going to be sitting in that 11 to 12 point range between Flowers and Edwards. I like Swift over JT personally, but part of this is my Georgia bias, I'm sure. Like, I just like DeAndre Swift, and that leaves JSN over Olave. I think you get the nod to Olave. So honestly, it's a pretty fair deal. It
Yeah.
really is. So if you like it, go ahead and do it. I do think it's fair now that I'm kind of working my way through this. So, there's not a clear-cut winner and loser other, total points wise. So if you need some running back depth, go for it.
All right. And Big Goo was saying he was kind of iffy on Douglas. He's also, it's also a PR and a league.
PR. What's up, PR?
Punt return. And the league I'm in, you get
Mm.
points for punt return, kick return as well. Shaheed has shown love, so I rolled the dice. Fair enough. Maybe that's something we look at for the home league, is adding in punt return, kick return yards for players. That could be a fun one. Expand the player pool, right?
Add it to the defense.
Yeah, there you go.
No, they don't need any more damn points.
No, we need to. Anyway, moving along. Let's go ahead. Yep, let's go ahead and hit up the next matchup here. We've got the Bears heading down to Nolans, face the Saints. Saints favored by 8.5. The over/under 41.5. Thoughts on this one?
The Bears covering. It's just a big number for the Saints, and yes, the Saints looked pretty good against the Colts last week. I think that they can carry this. It wouldn't surprise me if they win this game at all. But I do think that the Bears find a way to keep it within 8 points here. That's just a big, big number for a team who's not overly dynamic offensively like the Saints to cover unless they're getting defensive touchdown to kind of boost them along their way.
Fair enough. I kind of thought the same thing about last week with the Bears, coming off of a pretty good showing, all of that they would find a way to kind of ride that hot hand, all of that, and keep it within the coverage on the Chargers last week. That one certainly didn't happen. So I'm going to take New Orleans. I think that they're going to limit the Bears to very, very few points. Like, not going to be surprised if we see the Bears put up 3-6 points type of thing. The Saints can put up 17 points, and I think that's how we're going to get this thing hit. So I think that's where we're going to see this thing ultimately come through as an under on this one, and an under by a long shot, to the point where it's going to be I think that's where I'm thinking that is going to be about a 17-6 type of matchup in a grimy, not very fun game to watch type of thing. But that's where we're at. I do think that Cole Kmet, though, does go over 30.5 receiving yards. One of those, he's playing kind of the security blanket there, and is available in the check down type of thing there. So I think that's where we see him go over that 30 yards.
Fair enough. I have Alvin Kamara over 35.5 receiving yards. He's hit over that mark in 4 out of the last 5 games. I think this continues.
Fair enough. All righty. Terry asking, what do you do with Miles Sanders? Douglas, Dotson, Foreman, and Dell are all on waivers full PPR.
I'm dropping Sanders for Douglas, Dotson, or Dell. Triple D. Dell has the upside. Honestly, Douglas, I think, might have the floor of this group. Dotson kind of falls in between. Terry, in full transparency, I am not a Jahan Dotson lover. Like, I just don't like him in this offense. Good enough player, did really well at Penn State. Like, it's nothing against the kid, right? Kind of at times has a nose for the end zone. It's just really inconsistent the way that Washington's been spreading the ball around. So if you are a Dotson lover, then that might be the move. But I think you can drop Miles Sanders and pick up one of these wide receivers in a full PPR league.
Fair enough. I'm in full transparency. I got Miles Sanders in the home league. I'm going to hang on to him probably 1 or 2 more weeks and just see what that happens before I'm going to look at dumping him and moving off of that thing. So I'm in one of my leagues. I'm hanging on to him, and I'm in a position where I have to drop a player. And honestly, Tank Dell is probably the guy that's going to need to get dropped there off of my roster. But our scoring is very weird, very different there. And Dell's just not seeing the right now seeing the passing work to keep up on that one there. But I do like what they're using him for down there. Just different formats there. Terry asking Carr or Watson this week at quarterback. Carr. Smash Carr.
Watson could be out in the first series again, man. It's just not worth gambling on it this week.
Yep. Guess who's going to take that gamble though in the home league?
Are you?
I very well might. We're leaning that way.
No, fair enough. But when you got another option like that, you take the sure thing.
Yeah, you know, my other option was Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
That would.
He might come in the third if Heineke throws 3 interceptions because he goes straight gunslinger and Arthur Smith gets pissed off about that. You could see Ridder come back in.
Maybe. All righty. Let's head over here to our next matchup. We've got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is favored by 6. The over-under 44.5. Thoughts on this one?
Seattle. I think this is going to be another close game. I'm also taking the under. I think 44.5 is a little too high for this game. It's tough for West Coast teams to fly all the way across the country to play these early games, but nevertheless, I think Seattle is playing well enough overall to keep this game at least close. Wouldn't surprise me if Baltimore wins. I think obviously with the money being there, that's kind of what the expectation is, but I do think that it stays within that 6 points.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this one is going to be probably about a field goal game. I think Seattle is very surprising this year, taking a lot of people kind of by surprise there with how good they've really kind of come out and been.
It's an ugly 5-2.
Yeah, but they are 5-2 nonetheless, and this is a team that's finding ways to just get it done and win. So I'm going to take Seattle. I think that they keep this thing within 3-4 points type of deal. I'm right there with you. I do think we see a under come in on this one. As far as one of the props I like, Geno Smith to go over 219.5 passing yards.
There you go. I'm taking Zach Charbonnet to go over 18.5 rushing yards. Seeing a little bit more run here out of him the last couple weeks.
Well, it isn't. I believe Walker is still dealing with a little bit of a bang up there, isn't he?
Yes, I believe so. Now, I fully expect him to play and get his full complement of carries, but I mean, hell, 18 yards. Charbonnet's electric enough. He can break one and get that done in one play.
Right. All righty. Let's go ahead, and part of the reason too I'm looking at that Geno is the fact that Baltimore has been so good against the pass that I think, old Pete Carroll, he might be a little trickery there. They might try and throw it just a little bit, see if they can't catch him off guard here and see what that happens. But that's probably a recipe for disaster would be my thoughts too.
All good. I need to catch up on you.
There you go. All right. Let's go ahead and head to our next matchup. Tampa Bay heading over to the Houston Texans. Houston's favored by 3, the over under 39.5. Thoughts on this one?
Tampa in a close one, but I think this one actually hits the over. Tampa Bay's pass defense has not been overly good. They played a little bit better against Buffalo 10 days ago. I guess 8 days ago now will be 10 days by the time this game's played. And we saw Houston's defense be a little leaky against Carolina, right? They've been playing better for the most part. And with them being at home, I do think that helps. But I think there's opportunities here for Mike Evans to get behind the defense and create some problems to help keep this close and drive the score up.
Fair enough. I do think that this one is going to be one that we see Tampa Bay, even win this one. I see them coming out of Houston with a victory. So that being the case, so I do think we see the under. Like, these are two teams that they've put up some points at times, but it hasn't necessarily been super consistent. So I think that this is one when we look up, it's not going to surprise me to see probably like a 20-17 type of game. I think that's where we're going to be. So just on the underside of it, one of the props that I really liked was Devin Singletary to go over 48.5 rushing yards.
Very good. I have Rachaad White to go over 81.5 total yards.
I like it. Alrighty. Josh in the comments there is saying that he just made this trade in a 20-team PPR, traded away Rondell Moore and Jacoby Myers for DJ Moore. Roster is Lamar, JT, Aaron Jones, Tyreek, Christian, Kirk, Kittle, Myers, now DJ Moore. Good trade.
Yes. And
Yeah.
holy crap, that's a really good roster for a 20-man league. A really good roster. Good on you, Josh.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how in the world you would have assembled that. And I'm potentially
Tyreek
when you
1, JT 2,
when you might have been able
Aaron
to see JT
Jones.
drop to 3 just because of where when you might have drafted off of that JT news
Yeah.
and where they were at on that one. Yeah, no, that's a really good roster. I'm sure that you're doing well off of that roster there. But I like it. I traded for everybody but JT.
Good for you, man. Way to make it work.
Right? You were that one of those that you were that kid that traded a paperclip all the way up into a house type of thing. Saying he took JT 29th. That'll work. All righty, let's hit up our next matchup here. We've got week 9. The Indianapolis Colts taking on the Carolina Panthers. Indy's favored by 2.5. The over/under 43.5. Thoughts on this one?
This one was tough. Like I'm taking Indy, but I am not confident about this game at all. Like when I was first looking, I was like Carolina. And then I felt dirty, so I got scared and changed it. The more I thought about it. So Indy field goal game. I have the under in this one. I think this one's going to be a time wise. I think it's going to be a short contest. I think there's balls going to be on the ground a lot. And they're going to try and trade offensive and defensive line punches here a little bit. But ultimately, I think Minshew Mania is going to pull this one out.
Fair enough. I'm also taking Indianapolis. I do think that the under is going to come into play. Indy has been actually fairly decent against the spread, especially when you compare to where Carolina's been. Indy 4-4 against the spread versus Carolina being 1-5-1 against the spread. So I'm going to take the team that's actually been able to get it done, at least half of their games there. But that being the case there too, I think Indy's plan very much is to come out and run the ball on this one. Carolina's defense gives up lots of running room for opposing running backs there. But also, interesting stat, Gardner Minshew has a hard time winning football games if he gets 300 passing yards. So I think the plan is to absolutely keep this thing on the ground and just let it roll. And, Carolina, kind of that same boat there. Anyway, I do think that we see Adam Thielen have a decent game, though, where he goes over 5.5 receptions.
Very good. I have Jonathan Taylor over 66.5 rushing yards.
I like it. All righty. Rolling Loud highlights saying Jared Goff for Rashad White, Jalen Hurts, and Wilson as the other QB.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. You got Hurts. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. I'm assuming this is a super flex at that point. And that's why you're carrying 3 QBs. So, yeah, I would also probably do the deal there as well.
Yeah.
Josh, 2 more questions. Do you think Demario Douglas potential looks like rest of the season? And also, do you think Aaron Jones bounces back?
I'm at least taking flyers on Demario Douglas in leagues, right? Especially leagues where you have to start 3 wide receivers or 2 flex spots. I have a decent share of him that I went through, and some I picked up a couple weeks ago when he started to make some noise. Some I picked up after the Kendrick Bourne news. So I'm definitely exposed to Demario Douglas. I think he has a good week. These targets have to get funneled in somewhere. So in PPR leagues, I think there's at least potential to be a borderline flex play because he should see 7 targets a week. So that's just a matter of, does he come down with 3? Does he come down with 5 or 6? and that'll be a large part of the difference. And as far as Aaron Jones goes, I have to believe that Aaron Jones is going to bounce back. Like he is just too good. This whole Packers offense seemingly was built around what Aaron Jones could do, and he hasn't been around all season long to do it. So I have to believe that he's going to bounce back. But right now, this offense is just in shambles, and they're having a really hard time moving the ball consistently. And Jordan Love has shown that he just can't keep it all on his right arm. He's just not to that level yet or ever, depending on if you still think he can develop. But I mean, he's had this many years within the organization and playing behind Aaron Rodgers, and you just kind of expected more out of him, especially after the first 3 weeks of the season. It's fallen flat a little bit. So it is tough, but I do think Aaron Jones gets back up into running back 2 territory and quits bouncing around that, flex running back 3 on running back 4 on bad weeks territory.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think you're right there. I'm right there with you on the Demario Douglas, right? Like, flex play, matchup dependent, that kind of stuff. Aaron Jones, you would like to think that he can certainly bounce back. I don't know if we're going to really see that or not. And yeah, this could be one of those two that, depending upon where the Packers ultimately kind of end up at and where they're continuing to go here, like, yeah, this could end up not being a very, very good year overall for him. So, I would like to think that we see him bounce back, but I don't know that we can bank on that thing. So I was trying to pull up the Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, rookie season kind of stats here. And so Aaron Rodgers rookie year, 341 for 536, basically hit 4,000 yards, 28 passing touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 4,000 yards. And Jordan Love is at 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So, yeah, it was one of those that I hear a lot of people I've tried to make that. Well, Aaron Rodgers didn't have a good season his rookie year either. Those are not in the same ballpark at this point, right? Like, QB stream: Bryce Young versus Indy, Zach Wilson against the Chargers, Geno against Baltimore, Daniel Jones against Vegas, Mac Jones versus Washington, or Love against the Rams. That's one.
Terry bringing the hard ball.
Right.
Jeez. I'm going to go with Geno just because at this point he has the best weapons around him, and he's the guy that I trust the most.
And I just took him to go over his passing prop there as well. So I think Geno is my call there as well. Mac Jones is an interesting one just from the standpoint that where Mac Jones tend to have a lot of problems is when they get pressure on him. Washington just traded away their 2 top pass rushers this week. So you'd like to think that they may have a little bit harder time getting pressure on Mac Jones, and that may allow him to have a better game there. But I just don't want to put my faith in the Mac Jones to win me a week. So I got more faith in Geno.
I hope you really have better options than this, Terry, because that's brutal, man. That is not fun.
Not at all. All right, let's get to our next matchup here. We've got the Giants taking on the Raiders. The Raiders favored by 2, the over-under 37.5. Thoughts on this one?
Yes. This was not a fun game. I'm taking the Raiders, and I'm taking another under. I just not convinced either team's going to move the ball overly well. Josh Jacobs, I'm hoping, kind of feasts in this game, right, and seeing what they do differently with this interim regime after letting everybody go. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think it helps the Raiders that they're at home in this particular game. So we're going to see how it shakes out. But low scoring affair, Raiders by a field goal.
As much as I have a hard time making this call, I'm going to go with the Giants just simply from the standpoint that they're Yeah, you just said it. The Raiders cleaned house this week, which we've seen that sometimes that rejuvenates a franchise, and we've seen players show up to play, yada yada yada. Right. I'm going to go with the fact that I think that the Giants will find a way to eke this one out. They do get Daniel Jones back. I'd like to believe that Brian Dable's a better coach than the 2-6 record that we've seen the Giants roll out there. I do think that this is a low scoring, grimy kind of game. And again, this is one of those not going to surprise me if we look up and see a score end, 10-13, 12-9 type of deal here. One of the props that I really like is Devonte Adams to go over 5.5 receptions. The last time that we saw Aiden O'Connell take the snaps there was week 4. Devonte Adams was targeted 13 times, came down with 8 of them, and I'm seeing a similar type of script that I think they're going to try and roll out there this week.
Taking Aiden O'Connell over half an interception.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that one a lot. All right, Josh is saying number one guys roster in that 20-person league is Allen, Kenneth Walker, Moss, AJ Brown, Mike Evans, Laporta, Thielen. Do you think I have a chance to take the title from him? And he's had 0 acquisitions or trade on that team too, which is scary.
Oof.
I mean, you look at it, he happened to hit everything right. Like everything in the draft just kind of bounced his way.
Yeah. So Brown's been on a tear. Allen's coming back down to earth. Moss is now splitting the backfield where he had it to himself here the first half of the year. So yes, I absolutely think you have a chance to take the title from him.
Right.
Oh, Josh Allen,
Right.
not Keenan Allen. Sorry, I was thinking Keenan Allen.
I mean, we've
Allen,
seen
AJ Brown. It's a good roster. I mean, right? Laporta stepped up. Thielen stepped up. But yes, I still think you have the opportunity to put some heat on him and take the title here when it comes down to it.
Yeah, any given week you can see these things happen, right? Like AJ Brown, while he's been on a tear lately, go back and look at those first 3 games, right? Like there was a lot of AJ Brown managers that were ready to rage drop and buying or selling incredibly low on those. So anything can happen for sure. All right, next matchup, we got the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. Philly's favored by 3, the over under 46.5. Thoughts on this one?
Philly taking the over though. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game, right? Dallas secondary been a little bit leaky since Diggs went out. Gilmore, while good, I don't think he can keep up with AJ Brown. So I think that's going to lead to some problems for him. So I do expect points in this game. It should be a really fun one, but I'm taking Philly to cover and the over.
You and I are on the same page on this one. I've also got Philly to cover. I've got the over on this one. You're right. I think we're going to see a healthy dose and some, just some back and forth blows on this thing here. And both teams looking to get some opportunistic defensive play. So, that being said, I do like that Stephon Gilmore versus AJ Brown matchup there. So much so to the point where I said AJ Brown's going to go over his 5.5 reception prop.
Philadelphia has been pretty brutal against the tight end here, so I'm going to take Jake Ferguson over 35.5 receiving yards.
I like it. Alrighty. And Josh asking, do you think I should make any trades or changes, or do you think I should sit tight now? He's already 9 trades in there.
Honestly, I mean, I think you're always looking to improve, right? So I think it would be foolish to say just sit there, but at this point, any other trades that you might be looking at, you want to be really, really sure that it's going to help you come playoff time, right? You are set for the regular season, but the last, weeks 15, 16, 17 or 14, 15, 16, 17, kind of however yours is set up for the playoffs. That's the schedule that you want to look at if you're looking to target guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do you think if I know you just traded for DJ Moore, but do you think you could flip DJ Moore for for any of these other type of wide receivers out there? Maybe see if you could flip him for a Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb.
I mean, Lamb wouldn't be a bad target, right? Lamb wouldn't be a bad target. Devonte Adams wouldn't be a bad target, right? You might have to package Mike Evans with him, right? Like, I don't know that you're going to be able to go straight up. You're going to have to try and get a little creative in how you're able to do that. But I think those are both guys that are worth the target. Same thing with Josh Jacobs. I think Jacobs is worth the target.
Right. Fair enough. Alrighty. Sunday night game. We got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Week 9, Sunday night. We got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals are favored by 2. The over-under on this one, 49.5. Thoughts on this one?
I like Cincinnati at home, and I also like the over. I think we're going to see some points. This game, between the Eagles game and this game, it should make up for some of the lack of points that we've seen through the rest of the slate here. So I expect this to be really entertaining. Like, I'm really excited to see this Sunday night football game. Should be extremely competitive, but at the same time, I think stars will feast in this game.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some fireworks going on all over the place. So I do like Cincy at home, right? They're seeming to play some really good football and kind of getting back to what we thought they were entering the season. I do like the fact that we should see tons of points in this one, so I'm going the over as well. Joe Burrow finally broke his rushing prop, having been on the underside of it for so many weeks in a row. And then he broke off a big long one and snapped that one. But I'm going to hop back on the Joe Burrow going under 15.5 rushing yards in this one.
Fair enough. I'm going to take James Cook over 50.5 rushing yards.
I like that one. I almost went that route myself.
His bad games have been bad, right? He's had 2 really bad weeks. But other than that, James Cook has been very serviceable as an RB2. And for where you drafted him in anywhere from the 6th to 8th round in most cases, and depending on when you were drafting, he's absolutely returned value. So, I have him in the home league. I keep trotting him out there.
Fair enough. Josh asking, I have one guy who wants Aaron Jones and Demario Douglas for Jacobs. I'm assuming that's Josh Jacobs. Should I take that trade or giving up too much? I take that trade.
I'd take that trade too.
I'd smash and move on.
Yeah, I'd be happy to give up Jones and Douglas for Josh Jacobs.
Yep. Monday night, the Chargers heading over to New York to take on the Jets. The Chargers favored by 3.5. The over-under on this one, 40.5. Thoughts on this one?
Taking the Jets. Very much same thing. The Chargers historically do not travel east well. They do not. Now, it's a new season. This is a different team, but nevertheless, the Jets defense is for real. They've given a lot of really good offensive teams fits throughout the season. And they still know it rests on them. Zach Wilson has been playing slightly better, but they know that it is on them to keep everything in check. So I like them to cover the spread here, but I also like the under. So I guess it makes it interesting for fantasy wise, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Jets win this on Monday night outright.
Yeah, I think that the Jets are gonna find a way to get a W here, right? Like Salah has those guys playing just well enough that they're finding ways to win. They're proving that they don't necessarily need a high-powered octane offense to get wins. So I think that they find a way to pull this one out. And with that being the case too, right? Like the Chargers hyper aggressive in a lot of play call situations and all of that. Like you can't necessarily give the Jets a short field to work with because they'll find a way to put some points on the board here. And I think that comes true once or twice in this game, and that can be the determining factor. So I do think that the under comes into play on this thing here. Realistically, I think we're going to look up and see another 20-17 type of matchup, 17-14 type of matchup here. I do think that Breece Hall finds a way to go over 17.5 receiving yards in this one.
I sure hope so. I need him to. I'm going to take Zach Wilson over 213.5 passing yards. Again, the Chargers pass defense has not been playing very well. And even if they do end up with a lead in this game, Zach Wilson has been competent enough, right, to drive the ball down the field when needed. I don't expect it to be a hurricane style wins like it was last week when they were playing the Giants. So I think it promotes things a little bit better for the passing game.
I like it. Alrighty, so Josh saying that the bench would be empty of any decent wide receiver too if they made that move for Aaron Jones and Mario Douglas for Jacobs, because he already traded Rondale Moore and Rashid Shaheed already. Yeah, but you'd be rolling out there with Lamar, JT, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek, Christian Kirk, Kittle, and DJ Moore at that point. So I get that you don't have much depth outside of that, but
after the bye weeks, you don't need your depth. You're playing your horses anyway.
Right. You're playing your guys that are going to get down the stretch. So the only thing that's going to really hurt you in that scenario is if an injury pops up. And quite frankly, if an injury pops up, yeah, I get the DeMario Douglas thought process there, but if an injury pops up, we may see another guy, emerge that's going to fall into, a prime role type of thing here. Like that could be out there on your waiver wire. So, Marcus over on YouTube, which three should I start? Devonte Smith, Flowers, Downs, or Douglas?
I'm starting Devonte Smith.
Yeah. So who's
Flowers
the
would be 2. Like Flowers would be the other one. So which 3 would I start? So Smith, Flowers, yes. I'm
gonna probably roll Downs, but I don't feel great about that.
Yeah, I think I'm rolling Downs by a hair. It wouldn't surprise me if him and Douglas have a very similar stat line, but Downs has a little bit more downfield capability than what we've seen out of Douglas here so far.
Yeah, super close. Alrighty, guys. Well, that takes us down to the end of the matchups here. If you have any questions that you want us to rock and roll through, help you out with your fantasy lineups, rosters, trades, any of that, let's throw those in the chat. Let's get those things rocking and rolling here, and we'll make sure that we hit those up before we call it a night if you get them in. But while we see if anybody's got any more questions for us, any thoughts out there?
Sorry, right? I'm sorry that we as a community have to deal with really crappy 11 o'clock games. So we'll get through it here, guys, right? Like there's fantasy relevance all over the board, but this is definitely the Sunday that if the wife wants you to do a couple honeydews, you take care of the honeydews in the morning, right? You do the early slate of games, you take care of whatever the wifey needs you to take care of, and then you settle in, watch the Cowboys, Eagles, followed by Bills and Bengals. Kind of round out your night because other than that, it ain't that pretty.
It really is not. Josh saying that he's going to give it the weekend and see if Douglas could be sold high as a package with Jones next week and maybe try to add Shaheed onto the Jacobs side.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I like Shaheed.
And that way he still has a decent option for the more bye week in 13.
Or Rashid. Sorry, Rashid.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Take the weekend, decide what you want to do there. Take a look at it and see. So, Kevin, I'm surprised that we didn't have anybody, comment in there about which wide receiver they needed me to put the curse of my starting lineup on them this week.
We touched all of them.
We certainly did.
Yeah,
right?
That's not true. We didn't touch McLaurin.
Facts. That is facts. Anybody curious out there? He is in the starting lineup for now, so
That's where he should be this week.
absolutely. So, Well, I don't see any other comments coming in here. So I do believe that is going to call it a night for us. And best of luck to y'all, right? Like we've got, Kevin mentioned it, some not great games to start off the week, but we're going to finish with a couple of good ones down the stretch here. So best of luck to you and your fantasy rosters here. And all right, here we go. We got a couple more. Who do you rank higher? Rank more or Kirk higher rest of season? The way that
DJ, because he's the only show in town.
Yeah.
Kirk's right there, but the Kirk's going to have a couple down weeks with having to feed Calvin Ridley and with ETN. DJ Moore is really the source of so much of that offense that I would have him ranked higher than Christian Kirk rest of season.
Fair enough. And Myers both below both. Yes. Jacoby Myers I would have below both DJ Moore and Christian Kirk. Gorilla Kid over on YouTube. What's up, fella? Pick 2: Pacheco, Ford, Mixon, Bijan.
2?
Pick 2.
Bijan and
It's Bijan and Pacheco. It's got to be, right?
Yeah, I think you could make a pretty strong argument for Mixon over Pacheco. But I think it's definitely Bijan this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at that. Bijan is a smash, yes.
Bills have given it up on the ground, right? Like they have given some up on the ground. Same thing with the Dolphins. Both higher point totals, especially for this week. Pacheco recently has been doing a little bit more in the passing game, right? So that might lead towards a slight lean towards Isaiah Pacheco. But Mixon's coming off a pretty stinking good week here where he was able to get in the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I lean the Pacheco side just because of the matchup, but that Mixon has a very good matchup there as well. So I'm right there with you. Josh, I have a very realistic chance of winning all 3 leagues this year. That would be crazy. Go get it.
Heck yeah.
Matt over on YouTube, should I trade Ramondre Stevenson for Kyron and George Kittle? I'm getting the Kittle and Kyron side.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. As I think Stevenson's going to have a better back half, but there's no reason to think that Kyron won't just jump right back into that lead role once he's at full health for the playoffs or for the fantasy playoffs. And George Kittle, unless you're sitting on, Kelsey, Andrews, Laporta. I mean, Kelsey's still a top 5 tight end. Like there's no one's been able to really surpass that.
Fair enough. Gorilla Kid saying pick 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Flowers, Puka, Garrett Wilson, Lockett, Palmer, Mixon. Thanks, fella. Mixon's the flex.
Yeah, Mixon's the flex. I think Garrett Wilson's in with how bad the Chargers defense is against the pass, and I like having a piece of that Monday night game. And then
I lean Puka, but that knee kind of worrisome, and the fact that I think we're gonna see Brett Rippon being thrown the ball. A little worrisome.
I would lean too. Yeah, and I would lean Flowers. So I'd lean Wilson, then Flowers, and Mixon as your flex is how I would look at it.
Fair enough. I can co-sign with that. I'll get down on that with you. Josh saying that the 16-team lineup is Burrow, CMC, Kamara, Amon-Ra, Jamar Chase, Logan Thomas, Breece Hall, the Browns, and Jake Elliott.
Freaking highway robbery.
Yeah, he said he took advantage of people with horrible QB luck. Yeah, I would have too. Holy smokes, did you do well with that? And traded K9 and Thielen for Jamar and Breece and in week 3. Yeah, that was a smart move to make. Very well.
Absolutely. Good for you.
And Gorilla saying that it was pick one wide receiver, one flex. Sorry. So between those options, it's Mixon for the flex, Garrett Wilson for the wide receiver. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I would still lean Mixon in the flex and Wilson as your wide receiver one.
Marcus, do you think Akers will take over the starting role?
Yes. His snap shares increased every single week. I mean, and really, starting's almost irrelevant. Like, I think he ends up seeing more touches going forward than Alexander Madison does.
Right, I'm right
Regardless of
there.
starting or being off in the first series, it doesn't matter.
Right, I'm right there with you on that one. I do think that he ends up taking kind of the lead back in that offense. But the question then becomes, right, like even if he does take over the lead back, is it one of those that, it's a 55-45 split in what I think is going to be an offense that ultimately has a harder time moving the ball now?
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, and at
Yeah,
that
he
point,
might out touch him, but it's not going to be, 1.5 or 2-1, right? Like that's kind of what you're looking at there. It'll be more of an RBBC than Akers just taking it and running with it by himself.
right. I think you're going to see it where it's probably he gets 14 opportunities and Madison gets 10 opportunities type of thing. Yeah, and at that point, they're not either one of them are really one touch guys where they can break one off and house it from anywhere on the field like a Mostert or an Achan or something like that. So you've got a low volume, bad offensive mix. So even if he wins that role, what's your upside? Running back end RB2 at best?
Yeah.
So Josh saying someone had Dobbs and AR, so took CMC for Stroud, DK, and Dell. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Well played on the trade game, sir. So, alrighty. Well, that is all the questions that we've got there. Again, guys, if you have any last second ones, throw them out there. We'll hit them up real quick. But anyway, we've got an interesting slate of games here for us. Best of luck to everybody in their fantasy matchups. And hopefully you're getting them dubs as we keep making this march towards cash and trophies. Any final thoughts out there, Kevin?
Final thoughts. Good luck, right? Continue to hit us up at Good Old Boys FF across the socials, wherever you consume your content. You can reach out and we'll be more than happy to respond just as quick as we can.
Absolutely. So Josh saying that he'll catch us later. Appreciate you guys. You're most welcome. So we'll be back Tuesday night, 11 p.m. Eastern with the Tuesday show there. And for Kevin, I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloo.